Welcome back to the Curious Yapper. I'm Madison, your host and favorite yapper, and I'll give you the recap from this past week. Not a lot out of my comfort zone, but I am hoping to do an extra episode this coming week to talk about the new year and how I do plan to stretch myself and kind of how I want to do some of my goals for the upcoming year. Anyways, this past week on Monday was a short week. It was nice that people are starting to wind things down for the holiday season, and I have never been part of let's circle back in the new year, and it didn't feel like anyone was circling back and everyone wanted to have answers and projects completed. So it was kind of nice that some of last week felt that things were trying to slow down just a little, so that was nice. And I also, on Monday, shipped some packages at work. I was thinking, wow, I've really waited till the last minute to get things out, as everybody else has. And funnily enough, I was on my way to work in the morning, and I usually have the first 30 minutes of my day to just see what's in my inbox and prepare and have time before meetings and stuff. And so I was expecting the same, and I was just dilly-dallying, trying to just ship some cards out, and the exterior mailboxes were full, and I didn't feel like being another person to just shove the cards in the mailbox. So then I was like, okay, no worries. I circled around. I tried to go inside because previously I've been able to access the lobby where you can drop off pre-posted mail, and it was locked for some reason. I don't know if that's because someone was in there cleaning or what, but that was shocking and surprising to me. So I was like, wow, I don't know how long the wait at lunch would be to ship some stuff out, but anyways, I ended up remembering that at work there's a fulfillment center, and when I first moved here, the lady was like, yeah, you can ship stuff through us, and I was like, wow, okay. So I went over during one of the gaps in my schedule in the morning. Turns out I needed to have accomplished and printed some things off prior to going there. So that was a learning experience in itself. I went over there with all of my boxes, and I came back with all my boxes. And so I made a joke when I got back to my desk about that. And so I successfully eventually did get those out with the work fulfillment center, which was nice. And then came home, chatted with my dad on the way home, and then we had dinner, and then Evan said, let's go. Oh no, we picked up Taco Bell. And on our way, Evan was like, let's stop by Target to get you some stuff for your stocking. And I was like, yes. And so it was actually really fun because Evan was like, whatever I can hold in my hands is yours. And so we went through the book section, and I also got pajama pants that I had been wanting. So I got some pajama pants, and then I got 3 books, and one of them is the Mile High series by Liz Tomford, I believe. And then I got this book, The Tenant by Frida McFadden. And then there's another one about paradise, something like that. But anyways, I was excited to get some more books and just get to do whatever I wanted. So that was a good time. Then we got Taco Bell, we relaxed, and we watched some not Matlock. We watched The Tulsa King. We've been watching that one, so that was interesting. And then the next day, Tuesday, I worked from home, and then I actually got to chat with one of my former students once I got home that day, and that was good to catch up. Lots of things to catch up on. It was their first year in college, so they've done a semester, and there's lots of feelings with that transition, especially with friendships and trying to find your community. And I completely understand and relate because I have some high school friends, or people that were, some of them are from middle school or childhood. It's a very small group, and it's not constant communication anymore, but when we see each other, it is quality, and we care, and you can talk about life. And I think that a lot of those conversations and relationships happened once we had lived some life and gone through college and things, because there were things that happened in high school when I was friends with them that I didn't even know about, and that's okay. It just is all to show that you can talk about things once you've you're a little bit more removed. In high school, you're also trying to fit in, and there's cliques and stuff. And there's some of that, you know, in college, but you finally get to be whoever you want to be. And so I was just listening and validating some of those feelings because it's a big transition and it can be really challenging. So 100%. I've been there. Friends are challenging. I've been talking about on this podcast that trying to find your community and a place to belong as an adult is really challenging, and it gets more tricky once you leave college, in my opinion, because college, you're all there at the same time, intentionally, maybe in the same classes, maybe the same area of study. And then once you become not a real adult, but once you're removed from that environment, then takes a lot more effort to maintain or make friends. So I completely understood all of the feelings and experiences they were mentioning on the call, but really good to chat with them. And then that was the day before Christmas Eve. And so last week, Evan said, hey, do you know what special thing you want to do for our meal? Because I had said, oh, I think what would be really cool is if we did something special for us, since it's our first one together, and let's be intentional about that. And then life just kind of happened, and I was like, yeah, I'd like to be intentional. And Evan was like, okay, I'm going to the store. What should we plan to buy? And I was like, I have no idea. I don't know what special looks like. And so then he was like, okay, well, I got a roast. So that's our backup. It doesn't mean you can't do something special, but I need you to own or think through or communicate what you want to do that's special. And I was like, fair, so fair. Anyways, it's the day before Christmas Eve, and he was like, so should I start thawing the roast so that we can have that tomorrow? And I was like, no, I'll figure something out. So I scrambled and went to the store, and I went to a store here that's called New Seasons. I would equate it to kind of like a Whole Foods, a little bit more niche, but like similar vibes. Anyways, when we lived in Texas, we used to find tamales at Whole Foods. It's Texas though. I did find some at this place, so I grabbed some tamales, and they were in the like refrigerated ready-made section, so it wasn't like I was cooking them, so it was like score. I got a green chili chicken one and then some cheese one and put them in my bag, and I was like, okay, well, I want to make a queso to go with it because we all know I've been talking about queso and I miss queso. And I think I went to 4 stores that night, which is crazy. Anyways, went to Walmart to get some supplies for the queso, picked up some extra special cheese from Tillamook, because I was like, let me get the name brand so that it's special and good, and picked up a little bit of stuff, got some chips from Trader Joe's, etc. And so then I was home and I was like, I scored, I nailed it, here we go for our special dinner. Then the next day, Christmas Eve, I did work in the morning, and then we got released early, and that was nice to be home early. And then it was time for me to get Christmas Eve dinner. I got to come home and I got to read, which was really nice. And then it was time to get Christmas Eve dinner ready. Oh, we also Evan and I went on a really long walk that night. So that was nice to chat and get to just talk. Then it was time for Christmas Eve dinner, and I started with the queso, of course, the star of the show. And the queso was a fail, an absolute fail. Let me tell you where I went wrong. So you see, the recipe said, get the white American cheese from the deli. And I was like, yes, white cheese, you got it. So I did not go to the deli, and I did not get American cheese. Oops, I got white cheddar. Cheddar does not melt and dip like American cheese does. So do not attempt to make queso from cheese that is not intended to dip. Anyways, I went all kinds of wrong with my queso. First of all, I got the cheese melted. I'm like, perfect, it's melting. It's now this gooey thing. And then the recipe said to add some milk, but we had half and half. And I was like, well, half and half, if I put half of the volume of milk I'm supposed to have and the other half being water, problem solved. I nailed it. So I do that, stir it all together, it's mixing in. And then I had told myself that the green chili salsa that the recipe called for. I wasn't sure I wanted to commit to that flavor profile. So I scooped some in a little bowl next to it and decided if that was the way I was gonna go. It wasn't my cup of tea. Already red flags were, my cheese was very thick and very not runny to dip, and I was trying to get it to the even small bowl. So then at that point, scrap it. I don't wanna do the green chili salsa. I'm just gonna throw in a can of hot Rotel because I know from previous queso moments, we've made Rotel dip and I love Rotel and it's spicy and whatever. Okay, fail number if you're counting. I'm thinking this is fail 3 at least because the first fail was the cheese. The second fail was the not doing milk, and there were only 3 ingredients in this, so I failed on all of them, okay? So we scrap the salsa verde and now I'm doing Rotel. Wow, this cheese is not very melty. It's melty, excuse me. The cheese is not very thin. It's really kind of clumpy. I wonder what would go really well with that. Maybe it needs some more liquid. Let me not drain this Rotel tomatoes. Oh my gosh. So I left all of the juice from the Rotel can in it. No, bad. Okay, so now I'm trying to mix this like watery tomato in my goop of cheese, and it's really not working. So then at one point I'm like, you know what? I just have too much moisture in it. What should I do? Oh, I'm gonna get some paper towels, try to eliminate some of this moisture that I know was a mistake. Well, it was a hot mess, you guys. It was, the queso was a fail. The tamales then, I heated the tamales up. I made the Trader Joe's rice and some refried beans. And came to look at our delicious dinner and I said, yeah, so I failed this dinner, that's for sure. But here you go. Merry Christmas Eve. It was really bad. And I know that I can cook decently, and I don't know what possessed me that evening to go off recipe multiple times and multiple opportunities. What gave me that confidence? I don't know, but it was bad. Anyways, also one of the tamales was supposed to be cheese, and then it randomly had corn in it, and I'm like, what's happening in here? Didn't really enjoy that one. And I also put my little queso bowl because I was committed to the queso that I had made. And so instead of being able to dip my chips into queso, I was having to like grab some off and put it on my chip as a spread and not queso. And I did that. I had 2 little bowls of queso, and then it found its final home in the trash. Evan was smart and got rid of it. But it's kind of sad. Anywho's, that was that. And it was a queso fail, and I now have learned what not to do. So hey, there we go. Then the next day is actual Christmas Day. Woo woo, very special. I was getting pictures from my family, from my niece, and it was fun to see all of her excitement with the different holiday celebrations that they got to do. Also, last week, they got to make cookies for Santa, and that was fun to see those pictures too. So lots of festiveness. And that's Christmas Day. I watched The Grinch, the Dr. Seuss Grinch that came out in like I think it was 17 or 2018. Really good. Enjoy it. The soundtrack is great. And it has like a twist on the Grinch, and it's just, I think it is my favorite Grinch movie. So that was on Christmas Day, and Evan salvaged a meal for Christmas Day, and he had planned and made the roast, which was absolutely delicious. So go Evan. He also mentioned perhaps the holidays is not when we experiment, but I say I'm never going to learn this lesson. And I can't wait for you guys to hear what our experimental Christmas Eve meal is next year. So, anyways, that was that. Evan and I also got to go on a walk that day, and it was really special. And we got to talk about a lot of stuff, talk about some of our goals for the year, and It just feels really good to be in this season of ourselves. We've worked really hard individually and really hard together as a couple to be able to very transparently communicate about everything. And it feels good that we're in this place to be able to do so. And we also both look at each other and we're like, wow, if only we would have been able to do this at the beginning of our marriage and years ago, how wonderful it would be. Don't need to dwell on the past. We're just celebrating that we are communicating very transparently, and highly recommend individual therapy. Figure out your communication style and your needs. And anyways, feels really good to communicate because so vital to a relationship. And conflict is, I've read, conflict is a bid for connection and to be vulnerable together. So it feels really good. So we're in a great place, and that's awesome. So he made the delicious roast. Yay. I also finished a Christmas book that was pretty spicy and explicit, and I'm not going to put that title on this channel. But if you're curious to know what book I am talking about, feel free to text me and I will let you know. I'll leave it at that. But I finished a spicy Christmas book on Christmas Day, which was fun. And then the next day, I did a lot of reading while I had time away. I took the Friday off, which was delightful. Got to sleep in, which for me is about like 7:30. And then that day, I finished a Christmas romance novel that the work book club is reading. And so got to finish that. So now I'll be able to participate in some of the conversation. So that was nice. And we did another walk around the neighborhood. It was really nice to be able to get outside, move our bodies, and kind of just do our own thing for this holiday season. It was really nice. Then when we got back home, I was reading my book and Evan was playing his video game, and then we all of a sudden just hear a loud noise from one of our speakers. And I said, whoa. And Evan came into the room and he said, yeah, the neighbors do that sometimes. They think our speaker is theirs and it's going to get pretty loud here in just a second. So no joke, it did. It got so much louder on the volume. And at first I thought it was Spanish, so I thought it was our upstairs neighbors. And then we recognized that it was not Spanish and it sounded like an Eastern European language. I don't know which one, but it was getting louder and louder, and then they would finally figure out it wasn't their sound or their speaker, and then it would stop, and then it kept happening. I think it happened like 3 times, and Evan just thought it was nuts because he said it doesn't normally happen this frequently, and I'm surprised that they keep trying and don't realize it's not their speaker. And so I said, should we rename our speaker so they see it? And he said, nah. So anyways, stay tuned for if our neighbors continue to connect to our speaker that's through the floor. It's upstairs people somewhere. So anyways, really funny. And then also on that walk with Evan, like I said, we were starting to think about goals for 2026. And one of my friends who watches this podcast said that she and her husband do a bingo card together of different things they want to accomplish throughout the year as a couple. So I said that would be kind of fun for us to figure out what we would like to do as a couple and see if we can keep track of it and get a bingo or something. So that was fun to talk through with Evan. I was also sharing with him that I am thinking about goals differently this year. And instead of your traditional, oh, I want to cut out this food, which I am not here for ever at all, or I should do this more, I shouldn't do that, shoulds and shouldn'ts, those are not very healthy. What I have reframed in my mind to be what are goals that support my values and what I'm wanting. So for example, I have talked about wanting community and the friends. Well, how am I going to get those if I don't put myself out there. So one of my goals is I want to go to 5 different meetups on the app that I've talked about, finding the paddleboard group and another game group in there on the app. And I want to go to 5. So that's pretty attainable, and 5. I can totally do that. So next year in 2026, I'm going to challenge myself to go to 5 different meetups to see if I find any people that I connect with. So that's cool. Another example, also kind of tied to community, is that I want to volunteer for an organized event. I want to try to do 2. That's going to require me to find them, and that would put me in some kind of community group or some kind of circle, and then I might find someone there. I know Evan has really talked about volunteering and things like that. So it could even be one of the couple things. However, it's making me change how I am thinking about goals and say, hey, this is what I want my life to look like. This is what I'm missing. Let me make goals that support that. So that was really fun and exciting to reframe my brain that way. And I've got a list running of the different stuff. Another thing I absolutely enjoy, the past tense and hopefully in the future, enjoy doing is hosting. And when we first got married, we were hosting all the time. When I lived with my sister, we hosted parties. Then Evan and I were married 2019, and we hosted game nights and New Year's Eve and different stuff in that realm. And then the pandemic happened, and then it wasn't safe to host. And then for some reason, I had it in my mind that I wouldn't be able to host in the apartments that we had, which is so not true. And what we have now is fully capable of hosting. So one of my goals for 2026 is to host 2 parties. So it doesn't have to be a big thing, or it can be a big thing. I'm excited to also be brave in that realm too. So I plan in 2026 to host at least 2 parties, which feels fun. So that was Friday. Started thinking about goals for the new year. Then yesterday was Saturday. I slept in, got to make us breakfast. Then we did a big walk at the lake, which was nice to go some distance. I started listening to an audiobook by Tessa Bailey. I am still not sure if I like audiobooks or not. We'll see how it goes. I also saw a TikTok that spoke on if audiobooks counted as reading, and they reframed it in a different way for me, that if someone was visually impaired and they were consuming audiobooks, you would say that they were reading. So why would you limit the ability to claim if you were reading, if you were consuming auditorily or visually? And so that changed my perspective. So maybe in 2026, I will consume some more books and maybe some more audiobooks. Then after the lake, I started reading The Tenant by Frida McFadden. And she is the same author that did the Housemaid series, which is out in theaters now. And when I read that for the first time, I was wanting it to be way more shock-inducing, awe-dropping, jaw-dropping, not awe, jaw-dropping, and I just wasn't as impressed with that one. Well, this one I am liking. I have about 50 pages left in the book, which I should finish by tomorrow, if not tonight, and excited to read that. But this one had a plot twist, and I was not expecting it, so that was very interesting. I have liked that. So pretty much in the last week, I've read 3 books, which was fun, and I enjoyed it. So then yesterday evening, we went and did Christmas with Evan's cousins, and that was so fun. I was telling them that it feels like our family, our Pacific Northwest family, and really fun to surround ourselves with people that have similar values and beliefs, and just really nice. So we got there, and they've got 2 kiddos, and we were just playing around in their playroom. They've got lots of toys, lots of options, and it was funny to watch Evan encourage, coax them to do different stuff, and it was fun. They have lots of energy. And then we made pizzas for dinner. We also had salad for dinner. The cousin, she made homemade ranch. They made homemade croutons. I was like, this is heaven, yum. There was jalapeno popper dip, that was delicious. And it was just really fun to be around them. And she also made apple cider that was delicious in the crock pot. So it was just really good. Felt like our Christmas here. It is family and was delightful. Then we made it home last night and zonked out, being tired. Then today I woke up, started reading. That's why I got so far in this book. And then in the morning, I also started making desserts for my game group. That was this afternoon. I was in charge of desserts, so I made sopapilla cheesecake bars, really easy, really good. And then I made the Christmas wreath cookies again for them. Those were a hit. The host, she just kept eating those. So did everybody. But I didn't leave with one of those left, which was awesome. And just was really fun to see them. And when we were there, we played some cat game that made you, oh gosh, it was kind of like imposter, where most of the people had the same word and two people didn't have the same word, but it was similar, but they didn't know that they were the confused kittens. And then there's one person that just totally didn't have a word at all and had to figure out how to blend in with the group with giving clues. Anyways, that was a fun game. Got to play that. Then we played Scattergories. The lady I sit next to, she is so good at coming up with all those words and those prompts. So I said, if we ever get to beat you, we have really made it. We have really arrived. So that was the game group. And we also made a potato bar. So we made people brought different toppings for the potatoes, and that was really fun. Then at the end of that, we discussed it for our February game night. We're gonna do the color food, the color party thing, where we all signed up for a color, and then the food that we bring will be that color. I signed up for white. I'm gonna attempt this queso one more time because Evan's cousin, I told her my queso fiasco and she said, oh no, oh no. And the way she was able to describe how my cheese queso was very impressive. So either she's made the same mistake or she's just a genius at cooking. So I'm gonna give it another shot with the darn queso, see how it goes. Then I got home. Evan had delicious stew already ready. Yum. And then we watched the newest episode of Landman, and Evan and I kept looking at each other and saying, there is no new plot to this. And there truly was not. So what a bummer. There was not any resolution from what happened last episode, and there was nothing that stirred the pot this episode, and I love when they stir the pot. So anywho's, then I started recording this episode, and maybe I'll be able to finish this book before I go to bed. I do have to work this week, 3 days, and then I got 2 off, so I'm going to consume some more books. I got some reading to do, and I'm hopeful that I'm going to do a midweek episode in what's it called? New Year's Eve, and reflect on the year of 2025. There was a lot of change, a lot of good from this year. I will never ever downplay any of the hard times, because there certainly was and certainly will be in the future. Challenging weeks, months. September was rough for me, very rough. I won't diminish that. I also want to record and reflect on all that happened in 2025. So expect an episode to drop midweek reflecting on the year. But if I, for some reason, don't find the motivation to do that, I wish you all a happy new year, and I hope that you do something for yourself. Maybe you write some goals. They can be small, attainable, anything to get you to be able to reflect after the year and say, hey, I did that thing I was really scared of. Maybe you're scared to go to therapy. Do it. Maybe you're scared to go find a new friend. Maybe you're scared to say hi to someone in the coffee line. Maybe you're scared to ask a colleague out for lunch. Do the things that make you scared. Your life will benefit from those moments, and have a happy new year. I'll see you soon. Bye, yappers.